what's happening, guys? Following the pretty devastating news about Andrew Garfield actually being fired from Sony, still not confirmed yet, it's just one of the conversations from Sony's leaked emails, but if it's true, it's pretty devastating. Now we've got more details as to what is in Sony's mind, and all these details point to one thing, is that eventually, of course, probably Marvel will take Spider-Man in their own hands and Marvel will produce a new Spider-Man trilogy. From all these emails, it is discussed by Matt Tolmach as to how exactly Spider-Man might fit in Marvel's long-term plans, in Marvel's cinematic universe, and they're discussing such interesting things is that if Marvel will use Spider-Man in Captain America Civil War, at that time Sony will still continue with their own Spider-Man franchise. Can Sony actually use some of the Marvel characters? And it is mentioned that it's actually a great idea to use Captain America in the Sinister 6 spin-off film. How about that? Sounds pretty interesting, sounds actually pretty exciting. It is also mentioned if Drew Goddard perhaps can be working with Russo brothers. Of course, Drew Goddard is the director of the Sinister 6 and the Russo brothers are the directors of Winter Soldier, who are working closely with Marvel and who will direct Avengers Infinity War Part 1 and Part 2. It's pretty interesting to see that Sony are actually now discussing deeply as to how Spider-Man might fit in Marvel Studios, and I think at this point, guys, it's pretty clear that the reboot, the Spider-Man reboot, is inevitable. It will happen eventually. I'm pretty sure that January will be a huge month where it will be actually revealed that Marvel are taking Spider-Man, are actually creating a new trilogy with a younger version of Peter Parker, who is a teenager. They will focus less on the love story, like Mark Webb did. Instead, they will focus on Peter Parker's everyday problems and how he deals with them, and him basically already being Spider-Man. There will be no origin story, he's just Spider-Man. He started his Spider-Man career, and that's about it. Matt Tolmach is also asking such questions as, can they actually be in charge of the approval of a new Spider-Man costume for the reboot? They're wondering how long Spider-Man will be in the Civil War, how closely does it follow up the Civil War comic book storyline, and does the world find out who is Spider-Man, his real identity? There were many questions asked by Matt Tolmach, and it's really nice that he's actually asking these questions. For the first time ever, they are really thinking there, and I think that Spidey Summit will be actually a discussion for the better good for Spidey. It seems at this point that it's either Sony or Marvel who will reboot Spider-Man. If it's Sony will reboot Spider-Man with this new Peter Parker, definitely they will create a base, they will prepare this reboot, and they will include different various Marvel Easter eggs. You know, it will be mentioned, the Avengers will be mentioned, the attack on New York City by Loki will be mentioned, the fall of the Shield from Winter Soldier will be mentioned as well in the new Spider-Man film by Sony, and it will be just for the sake of bringing Spider-Man to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and eventually he will pop up in the Civil War, and after that Sony are wondering if they can use certain Marvel characters in their Spider-Man films. Or another scenario is that it's Marvel who reboots Spider-Man, Sony are just the distributors, and Marvel reboots Spider-Man and sets him up perfectly, and they are by rebooting Spider-Man, by getting rid of Andrew Garfield, they actually avoided all the timeline issues, and it will be a fresh Spider-Man, and it will work perfectly with Marvel's current cinematic universe. And at this point it's pretty clear that all we're hearing, all we're reading, all these emails are pointing out to the fact that apparently for a few months now Marvel and Sony discussed this possibility. You see, Sony fired Andrew Garfield back in October, and Marvel said, you know, just like a month ago, according to these emails, that if they will create new Spider-Man trilogy, it will be without Andrew Garfield. So it all ties up perfectly. It seems that the January will be the year when we will hear about a new Spider-Man reboot. And funny enough, it is also mentioned something which I predicted from this conversation, is that apparently this production split deal 60-40 and eventual revenue for both Sony and Marvel, which will probably be 50-50 or 60-50, the bigger part goes to Sony. It does include the merchandise sales, so Sony are getting some money from the merchandise sales, and that's a lot of money. We're talking about Spider-Man merchandise here. So it seems like everything is worked out. It's just a matter of time when we will get the official confirmation about the Spider-Man reboot. And interesting enough, you know, if Sony will use in their Spider-Man films, if they are the ones to reboot him, Captain America, you know, in the Sinister 6, Avengers fought Sinister 6 bunch of times. Might be pretty interesting seeing Captain America helping Spider-Man, maybe this inexperienced Spider-Man, to deal with the Sinister 6. And at this point, it's not even, we don't even know if the Sinister 6 will happen in 2016. Probably if they will reboot Spider-Man, either Marvel or Sony, they will scrap all the plans and will start from the very beginning. Tell me what you guys think. Are you up for a Spider-Man reboot? Are you ready for a new Spider-Man reboot with Spider-Man being already Spider-Man without the origin story? It's a teenage version of Peter Parker, and probably maybe definitely will take some inspiration from the Ultimate Universe. Tell me what you guys think, and I'm off for now.